we go into this book. We've gone into it a lot before. This book has a lot of drop, a whole bunch of drop, right? But I do want to be real with it. It's very Pan-African. All right, like yes, it's telling you that all these people were so-called black, but it keeps telling you that they came from Africa with no proof. There's no proof of them originating in Africa at all. He's just saying it because it's a Pan-African view that the author has. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if he's as updated his studies or he's been watching. I don't, not me, but at least doing his own research, following up on his research. Because I respect, Mr. J.A. Rogers. We've learned a lot from him, a couple of his books. Right, but just wanted to highlight the part here that relates to what we're talking about today. All right, and it says here the Jews also brought in much Negro strain. So the Jews brought Negro strain. So you see how he's kind of like trying to separate Jews from being Negro. So it's like, oh, the Jews brought in much Negro strain, but at least he's admitting they were Negro, right? They had Negro strain in them. Some of the noblest of the Sephardic families, aristocrats of Jewry, were Negroes. So now you see how he says some, but not some. Almost all of them. If any were not, it's because they mixed with white people. But the Sephardic Jews were so-called Negroes. All right. Some of the noblest of the Sephardic families, aristocrats of Jewry, were Negroes. Isaac da Costa, all right, the da Costas, remember? Slave owners in South Carolina. Free people of color, the da Costa family, free people of color in South Carolina. Mentioned sons and grandsons of Don Jachia, Ben Jaish, who were royal treasurers, court physicians, astrologers, and royal favorites of the court of Castile and Portugal, one of whom was Don David Negro, who with another illustrious Israelite, Don Judah, all right? Don Judah, he don't play. In the following year followed Doña Leonora, widow of Don Fernando, whose favorites they had been in Castile. His name, Negro, is derived according to the author of the Chalsheth from Dos Negros, one of the three seigniories which were given to his progenitor by the king of Portugal. You hear that? He's assigning these titles. The king of Portugal. Certain it is that the house of Braganza, with all the first of Portugal, have Jewish blood in their veins. All right. He mentions also another noble family named Negro, bearing the same arm as Pretos. Preto was the name later used and still used in Portugal for Negro. All right. If you speak Portuguese, you know that, right? Preto. Pombal, in abolishing slavery in Portugal, decreed that the term Negro should no longer be used, says Wenham. In Portugal, says this writer, mulattoes frequently rose to high positions. They were, and it ends there. Continues another parts of the book, says here, the Negro came first to the Indies from Spain, not from Africa. All right. The Negro came to the Indies from Spain, not from Africa. All right. Not from Africa. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys here. All right. He's going to add a little so-called African hijack here later on, but he's letting us know, he's got the research. He's just trying to add the whole African thing because they're just the colored, basically. He has no proof of it. But he knows historically what the records are saying, what the ship manifests are saying, who they were putting under their encomienda repartimiento system, the Spanish and the Portuguese. A lot of them were the leftovers Jews and Moors they were trying to get rid of in Spain. We read what they were doing to them, right? Why wouldn't they bring them to work? Why would they kill all of them, right? When they needed free labor. Why would they go to Africa when they got the free labor? We're trying to get rid of hundreds and thousands of people. You understand what I'm saying? You guys paying attention? All right. So no, we're not talking about no patent, nothing. All right, we're talking about sources. All right, so look at the screen and follow along as we read sources. If it's your first video, we got over 200. You're kind of late to the classroom, but it's okay. It's never too late. Welcome to the classroom. Welcome to the classroom. All right. This is not about being pan anything. We're just tired about the generalization because we know we live in a pan-African world without proof. All right. Because the truth is, when we read the ship manifest and everything, we know they were bringing their Ladino, Sephardic, Moorish people to work and to aid them in their conquest. All right. The ones that didn't flee or get murdered. They joined forces. A lot of them converted, became the conquerors, so-called Catholics, Christians, conquistadors. All right. So it says, and as Euclides Acuna said of Brazil, the mulatto was not made in America. He came to us already made from the mother country, Spain. He was already a mulatto, man. It's a lot of deep history before people get and reach America. So that's just what we're showing you. The African Negro slave trade was more abundant during the 15th and 16th centuries for the peninsula than for America. All right. What African slave trade, right? But they're letting you know that if anything, it was more abundant over there in Europe than in America. All right. In the peninsula over there, they mean the Iberian Peninsula. In one city like Evora, Portugal, the Negroes undeniably exceeded the whites. Oh, really? We already know who the Portuguese and Spaniards are. Of course they did. Several thousands of Wolof, Mandingo, Guinea, and Congo slaves entered Lisbon and Seville. Show me the proof of that. Show me the proof of that. All right? This is what I'm saying about the author here. You know, that's the story they told people. That's the mainstream. When you go look into it, we've realized a lot of these, again, were Sephardic Moorish people. A lot of these were American Indians. American Indians. We got this whole video, right? We did a whole series, right? From indigenous American to African American. We know who the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Spanish were really enslaving. What the routes they were taking, really, they wrote them down. Who were they really putting in ships? All right. So either way, this is happening big time in Lisbon and Seville. We know Indians were being brought to Lisbon and Seville. We already got the sources for that. And without the bestial prejudices which afterwards recur in American societies of agrarian slaveholding economy, the Negroes and mulattoes were frequently emancipated and both rose to prominence by virtue of knowledge, art, value, or love. It says here, Negroes were adopted into the royal families, given the royal surname, all right? So they were given their surnames. So that's the hijack big time. Those were their surnames. They were Negroes. They weren't adopted. The people who adopted them were so-called, if they were adopting them, they were already so-called Negroes. Those were their surnames. That's the hijack. All right. That's why I say, J.A. Rogers, you got to step your game up with all respect. I understand you got some drop here. Yeah, there was black Europeans. Yup. They weren't all coming from Africa, though. All right. And Negroes didn't inherit these European names just because they got adopted. And I'm just trying to say that. All right. Well, Negroes were adopted, right? So he's trying to explain how they got the surname and accepted into marriage with the nobility. All right. So why would nobility marry slaves? Straight up. I'm asking you straight up. Why would nobility, when they're all about bloodlines and all that and keeping the blood pure and who they marry and it's all arranged, why would they just marry random slaves that they fell in love with and adopted? It says here, Moreno Villa named several such, among them Don Alfonso Carlos de Bourbon, adopted son of Charles III and an architect. All right. Guzman de Alfarachi, who had a Negro sweetheart himself, mentions a Negro woman who lived like a great lady. Goya depicted the great Duchess of Alba holding her little black favorite tenderly, and Queen Isabella, mother of Alfonso the 13th, had a Negro favorite, Marie Marlene, who was a clever guitarist. All right. So again, a lot of these are the ones who slipped through history that they couldn't hide. So they were publicly, allowed to be known as Negro people. but then they try to add the African hijack into them, and they try to say that like Queen Isabella was white and all these other people. No, don't think like that. Don't think just because they're saying these people are Negro that the other person is not Negro. That's what they want us to think. Juan Latino says here Negro ex-slave was one of Europe's great Latin scholars and poets, but he happened to be an ex-slave, but he became Europe's great Latin scholars and poets. Does that make sense to you? From servitude in the household of the Duke of de Sessa, he became tutor to children of the nobility. And in 1565, a professor of the University of Granada, right? So a slave, right? Juan Latino, Latino, Latin Latino. He married one of his pupils, Ana de Carvajal, by whom he had 4 children. Carvajal is a Sephardic Jewish name, all right? A writer of the time said of his daughters, very beautiful, although mulattoes, elegant and dressed in the fashion of gentle women. 2 other noted mulattoes of that time were Cristobal de Menenes, a priest, son of noblemen, and a black woman, and Licentiate Ortiz, born a white father and a black mother. Cervantes, in his preface to Don Quixote, dedicates a poem to Latino. Lazarillo or Lazarillo de Tormes tells of his mother's love affair with a Negro named Tejeras near Salamanca and of her child by him. Illicit love affairs and marriages in high and lowly life were not uncommon, all without prejudice. The Count de Salinas Don Ciego Sarmiento says Gandia was the nephew of Pedro de Villandrado, Count Rivadeo, and a Negro woman. The Countess of Rivadavia was the illegitimate daughter of Juan Pimentel, Señor de Miranda, a female slave. Race mixture was so common, all right? Race mixture was so common in Portugal that even royal family was mulatto. The royal family was mulatto, all right? Even the royal family. So you see how they write this? Like, okay, so if you found all this correlation, what proof do you have that the other people were white? All these people, even the royal family was mulatto. All right. So maybe they lightened up after eventually with time, not the other way around. Like, some black people came into it. No. Now we already know how the Portuguese and Spanish were, the Iberians and the Moors, they were there for how many years in rule in Portugal and Spain? Let's not forget all this. It says John the Fourth shows evident Negro strain, and John the Sixth was described as a dark mulatto by the French Duchess de Abrantes, who was at his court. All right, swarthy Europe. It says the offspring of these Moors and West Africans dodged the hijack because that's his conclusion that they have to be Africans because they're black. All right. So Sephardic Jews and Moors, these black Europeans, basically, offspring of these Moors, these black Europeans were among the discoverers of the New World and the first builders of Latin America. All right. It's correlating with what we've already learned recently, right? As the Luz says, in that century, when the Portuguese acquired African possessions, they had already much colored blood in their veins. Portuguese, when they were getting to Africa, they were already colored. They were already colored. So why you do you see? I'm sorry. I just like it's silly to me. Okay, it's just really silly to me. Right? Because after all this research and you write books about it and everything, you should have kind of like asked more questions. Maybe at the time, it wasn't time. We had like this spell on over us, or unfortunately, maybe somebody is a gatekeeper. I don't know. I don't know, but I appreciate the knowledge dropped here. As much as you could, or were allowed to. As the colored blood had come to Portugal in dribbles, and later and actually became a flood. Some of the whites and many of the Iberian, Gothic, Arabian, Negro offspring were of the dark-eyed girls of Cadiz. Their raven hair adorned with a single rose, of whom Byron wrote so ecstatically in Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, undoubtedly owed much of their beauty to their mixture of African blood. All right, dodge the hijack. What Africans? Please show us the records that they went and got some Africans and they brought them here and that they were servants and What tribe did they come from? What port did they leave? What ship did you put them on? You understand? We need all that now. Stop with that. Their compeers may be found in Latin America today. All right. The dark skin softened the glare of the white one to produce a complexion of matchless beauty. The most recent importation of Negroes into Spain are those in the army of General Franco. One of his prize cavalry battalions is made up of coal-black Moors. Coal-black Moors. Again, what happened to the Moors when they got expelled? Their heart felt for their land, Spain. They're not from Africa. They're from Spain. They find mates among the Spanish women, precisely as did the Moors of Tariq in 711. All right.